All right, we're ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and call the EPD committee to order. It's 11 minutes after 5 on the 2nd. All committee members are here, as well as city administrator and Mr. Van Broad. We're going to go ahead and start with public comment. I believe that our public is up front. Mr. Kelly.
I hope I can take this off while people keep on breathing. I'm here today to see what the city's plans are to help with the problem that we're having on North Main Street. We've had a shooting on Friday night, this past weekend. I was actually in the parking lot when that happened. There may have possibly been another shooting in the parking lot about an hour and a half later. The first one happened at 12 o'clock. I was there. They chased the subjects across the road. They detained them up the street. Probably about 30 minutes later, 30 to 45 minutes later, obviously there was an individual that showed up at the ER with gunshot wounds. There was another fight that broke out in the parking lot at 1:30. They called officers back, and at that point, I don't know if there was another shooting, but I do know that there was a presentation of a gun. So at that point, so here's how it started on Friday night. It started off by me looking at video of cars doing donuts in my parking lot, which I've already had an incident in late January, early February, where a vehicle was struck in my parking lot. It cost me about $4,500 to repair that vehicle because it belonged to a customer. It was T-boned in the side. I have video if anyone wants to see it. Mr. Madden, I believe, has already seen that video. At that point, it cost me around $4,500 to repair that vehicle, which belonged to Greenlight Motors. That's real money to me. That is, there's no profit being made on that. That's just pure dollars going out the door. We continue to have trash in the parking lot. We continue to have issues. I'm not asking for the council to shut the club down, but there is going to have to be some consensus on who is responsible and how we're going to take care of this. If it's going to be the police department, then they are going to have to man more staff. They're going to have to put more officers. They're going to have to station them up there permanently. They're going to have to do something. Either that or the club needs to come out of pocket. They need to put security in every parking lot. They need to secure every lot. They need to clean every lot. And they need to report any incidents that happens on any parking lot that they are using or that somebody else uses, if they can't determine what that is. We, as the business owners on North Main, have come to a consensus that the way that we're going to handle this is we're going to go see our attorney. We're going to get together as a group. We're going to hire an attorney. We're going to check into him, and we are going to stop paying our business license. We are going to stop providing the city with our hospitality tax. We are going to keep that money, and we're going to hire private security. We're going to go to Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and we're going to hire anywhere from 3 to 5 officers a night, and we're going to spend $500 to $600 a night to employ our own security that will take care of all the parking lots, that will have the authority to arrest someone, to detain someone. And that's the only way that we know to handle this, because each one of us is having damage to our property. It's not every one of us every weekend, but it is consistently happening every single night that it goes on. In the past, I've been dealing with this for 4 years now, and so have the other businesses. And pretty much what I'm here to ask this group, and hopefully the entire council, is what is the plan from the city to manage what is going on. Again, I respect businesses that open. Opening up a small business is a struggle. It is hard to do. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to stay in business. But on the other hand, and that's the reason why I say I'm not here to ask for the bar to be shut down, to pull their business license, to do any of that. We just need for the bar to do their part. And if they're not going to do their part, and we as business owners need to go between. We need someone from the city who's going to make contact with the bar and decide how they're going to handle it. Because if they don't, we as business owners feel like that we're going to have to take and we're going to have to handle that ourselves. And I don't mean that as a threat. It's just a matter of fact that we're going to have to go outside and hire private security to make sure that our businesses are taken care of. I have a letter here from John Collins, who has provided actual pictures of his location where Stevens Aviation is at now. And I'll be glad to read his letter for you. Basically, what happened to his property was he has chained it 2 different weekends in a row. The first weekend, they came and cut the chains and parked cars there. The second weekend was an actual cable that was padlocked to the post there that was again cut, and there were people on the street with flashlights flagging people into the lot. It adds insult to injury. If you think that it's a patron that cut the cable, that's one thing. But for there to be parking lot attendants there flagging people in tells me that it is not a patron that cut the cable. It tells me that someone else cut the cable and decided that they were going to park cars there. I'll read you John's letter real quick. Hopefully it won't take too long.
Take the time you need.
It's not very long. This is from John Collins. It's actually addressed to Van Broad, but he dropped this off to me and asked me to read this tonight. It says, I'm very frustrated by the lack of attention and assistance I am receiving to address the trespassing and illegal parking on my property. I have left numerous texts and voice messages. I need help. Who should I contact? As you know, I have invested over $1.2 million in the purchase and upfits of my building to attract the department of a great corporate tenant, Stevens Aviation and Defense LLC. They do not want any cars parking in their lot on the weekends, and I am obligated to honor their request. Stevens is tired of cleaning up the lot every Monday morning, and no one, including myself, is interested in the liability issue if something or someone is injured or hurt on my property. I have had a conversation with Senator Carl Allen months ago about leasing my lot to a local club and made it clear that my lot was not available for parking. I have left a message for Senator Allen this morning to make him aware of the current situation and ask him for suggestions and for help. The trespassing and illegal parking returned to our lot over a month ago, and my tenants started complaining and becoming genuinely concerned. Below, I have recapped the events for the past few weeks. Again, Friday, 10/23, tenant installed chain with no lock across driveway, with no trespassing and parking, no parking signs. The chain was removed. 80 cars were parked in the parking lot. The lot was littered with trash, and people can be seen on video systems urinating on the sides of the building. On 10/24, the tenant reconnected the chain, no lock across the driveway with signage, and it was removed and taken from the property. Again, 80 cars parked on the lot, same results. The tenant called the police department around 9 o'clock that night and was told by Stephanie, which has no last name, that nothing could be done. Friday on 10/30, I installed a thick cable with locks across the driveway, including no trespassing and no parking signs. The cable was cut with bolt cutters, and the parking lot was full of cars. The lot was trashed. Tire marks from donuts and reckless driving are visible in the lot, and that he just paid thousands of dollars to seal and stripe. He says, there's no respect for other people's property. On Saturday, 10/31, I parked a pickup truck across the driveway and finally prevented access to my parking lot. His questions are very simple. How can the city help us? What is the purpose of the business license fee that tenants and I pay annually? And what portion of the property tax that I pay to Greenville County every year goes to the city of Mauldin and what it's used for? And again, that's addressed to Van Broad. So I'll let him answer those questions for John. Here's some pictures from him of his cable being cut and his cones that he has put across the parking lot. We are entering into the same situation. Again, I know that I have plenty of video of different instances going on there. Again, John nor I are asking for you to close the business down, but we're asking for some type of relief. This is a letter from the Carter Insurance Agency. It says this letter is once again to inform the city leaders and ongoing problems occurring across the street from our business at the former Club Epic. Over the years, the establishment has been forced to endure behaviors that are a nuisance and often a hazard. We have been forced to collect empty liquor bottles, beer cans, various articles of clothing, used condoms from our property, and we are weary of our city leaders turning a blind eye on countless instances that the citizens are forced to live with on a weekly basis. They are asking what can be done and where we can go to from here with this. We have hired a Mauldin police officer at one point because there was a person coming to the club and we felt like there would be an exorbitant amount of vehicles. This past Friday night when this happened in my lot, the club has been trying, I give them credit, they were trying to keep people out of my parking lot. And they did that on Friday night and they did that on Saturday night. However, on Friday night, they filled my gravel lot with over 100 cars. Okay, so they didn't park in my initial lot, which is great. They parked in the side lot and they put over 100 cars. I went there and took pictures. I counted vehicles. There was at least 5 rows of cars parked 2 wide all the way up. They filled the entire Dollar Tree parking lot up. They filled the entire parking lot at the tire exchange up to capacity. Again, I had someone come there on Sunday morning, clean up everything in the parking lot. He cleaned up all the trash in the field. But again, that is an expense to me that I'm having to incur that I normally wouldn't have to incur. So if we're going to go that route, I will be anxious to hear an answer from y'all and from Brandon as to how we're going to address this and what you're willing to do to give the business owners on that end of town some relief from this, whether it be through the bar or whether it be through us, again, retaining our business license money and our hospitality tax money and going out and hiring Greenville County officers to take care of that ourselves. I do have one other thing that I'd like to address because I have a hard time understanding this. Just as John has said, when they called and said there was people there, he was told there was nothing that could happen. When I had called and said, I've got people parked here, I've been told there's nothing that can happen. There's nothing we can do about it. On Sunday, I had heard on Friday that there was going to be a Trump rally that gave my location. First of all, I did not facilitate that, nor did anybody at my business. I did not participate in that, nor did anybody at my business. I did not offer my property, nor did anybody in my business for that rally to go on. However, when I came there at 2 o'clock to see what was going on, I was under the impression that there would be around 30 people because I saw it on Facebook and there was about 30 people that said that they were going to be involved in this. I came there was probably about 300. However, my problem is that 4 officers in cruisers showed up to tell the people that were there to leave. I did not call them to do that. I appreciate them asking them to move along. However, I have a hard time understanding how when I call as a property owner and request that an action be taken, there is no action. But then when something else is going on, someone else deems that there needs to be action taken and it gets done. Do y'all, I know that y'all can't answer in this session, but I do not understand why when I pay taxes and I do the things that I'm supposed to do in the city, I cannot get a response. Somebody comes in from an outside and they get an immediate response of 4 different officers there telling them that they're going to write them citations and that they have to leave. I don't understand how that works. So if someone wants to contact me after the meeting and explain that to me, I would be more than happy to hear what the reasoning is for that. Again, I understand that y'all can't comment back, and I don't expect you to, but I will drop the rest of this off. Y'all are welcome to keep that, and I will be anxious to have a lively conversation about where we're going to go to with this. Because at this point, the tire exchange, the insurance agency, Mrs. Henderson, who I talked to right before I got here, Miss Ann Henderson said that she is on board with doing the same thing that we're all discussing here. And we will be contacting the attorney to find out what our legal obligation is to the city and whether or not we can retain those funds. Okay? Thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you,
I
Rob.
appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, Rob.
Have a good night.
Any additional public comment? All right, what do I have on reading and approval of minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted,
Is that for the 5th or for the 5th and the 19th?
5th and the 19th.
All right, so we have a motion to approve both the 5th and the 19th. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we move to reports of communications from city officers. Go ahead, Mr. Broad, with budget review.
Our budget is at 73% of an ideal 66% range. So we were currently 7% under budget. We don't expect any shift in that throughout the year. Just for council's information, you I'm sure are already aware of this, and anybody listening by public, we opened Disney's Mauldin this Friday. It'll be a great kids show. If you haven't had a chance to see any of the theater productions in our cultural center and the new auditorium, we highly encourage you to go check it out. We've got some great entertainment there. We continue to work on development projects throughout the city. A lot of exciting things are happening. And then for your information too as well, Kira Hyder, who is our cultural center director, goes out on maternity leave this week. So she'll be out for several weeks. I told her a week or 2 was all she could have, but she wants a little bit more than that. I'm joking. I told her I didn't know what I was going to do with her being gone, but we would manage in some form of fashion. She's got a great staff over at the cultural center, and they have it well in hand, which is really a blessing, I think, to our city that we've got such a good staff over there. So they'll handle anything that comes up daily. I'll be checking in with them pretty often too as well. And if you see or hear of anything that needs my attention while she's out, please let me know. We'll make sure to handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Broad. Any questions for Mr. Broad? Hearing none, let's move to item 4B, the East Butler Road Corridor Project update, and Ms. Chandler got here just in time.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. South Carolina Department of Transportation is leading an effort to improve the East Butler Road corridor from the intersection of East Butler Road and North Main to East Butler Road and Bridges Road. That process is underway. It's in the early stages. DOT is using ICE as a consultant. They performed the preliminary design of the project, which includes widening 5 to 5 lanes, portions of that along with landscape medians. 2 of the bigger issues, the intersection of Old Mill Road and Bethel Drive, they're looking at closing those intersections and making a new intersection along East Butler Road, and are also tying in a multi-use pathway into the existing pathway at Springfield Park. I'm not Springfield Park, City Park, excuse me. They're getting ready to start the public input process. They've requested information from the city as to what information we would like to have to put on our social media network and also a website, and to help spread the word to get folks to participate in that process, which they're looking at having first of the year. And so that's what the project is at this point. $17 million in federal funding has been allocated for that project. And so that's where we are right now.
And the project end has changed as well.
That's correct. Initially, they were looking at making an additional left turn lane at the intersection of Butler and Bridges Road. That's no longer an option, right? So they're not making any improvements outside of the repaving and adding the curb gutter and everything else that comes with the project. But they're not going to extend the multi-use pathway on the left-hand side. They're stopping at City Park and tying it to the existing City Park trail and going around the baseball fields to the corner.
And that project is ongoing. First public meeting is probably going to be in November.
Well, they're looking at the end of the year, first of the year. They're having some challenges as to how they want to have it, given the COVID-19 precautions that they want to put in place.
They also understand that trust is a major issue, and that it's going to have to be open to the public, not one in, one out, and not selected people making comments, as has been done previously.
I agree. I think that is been clear. There was a meeting held last week with members of the state delegation and Mayor Mr. Tatney, Mr. Matney, excuse me, and members of the county council, the Greenwood County Council, and it was made clear that the process needs to be as transparent as possible. There were concerns from staff and the representative there on the way the project had been unfolding. It was limited in its scope. It did not take into consideration the 2016 plan that the city put in place. So it was made clear that the public input process needs to be open to everyone and inclusive to all those that are impacted, all the stakeholders, including the businesses and residents that live and work along East Butler Road.
Questions for Mr. Madden?
Yeah, but actually, this is the designer, get the name of the company. ICE. I'd like to see if we can get I'd like to know, there was a comment made that they have to have line of sight 90-degree angles at traffic lights.
Yes.
I would like to know the codes and standards where that comes from specifically, so I can review those.
Additional questions or comments from Mr. Madden? All right, thank you, Mr. Madden. We don't have any unfinished business. Does someone have a motion to enter executive session to consider contractual matters related to Project Pickle and Project PB is allowed under code section 30-4-70A2?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion, is there a second? Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are in executive session at 5:36. All right, we're coming out of executive session at 6:41. Who wants to report out?
I'll report out, on Project Pickle and Project PD. No decisions were made and no action taken.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Kuzma. No decisions were made and no votes were taken. That brings us to item 6B, possible action on items discussed in executive session. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to forward Project Pickle and Project PD to full council?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us to public comment. Joanne, do you want to comment on anything tonight?
Well, I have some letters I would like to give out to everybody, so,
Thank you, ma'am.
and everybody knows about the market, but this will give you a much more complete detailed information about it. So this is a copy of the letter that I'm sending to everybody from the governor on that. I just wanted y'all to have copies.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, there is no additional public. Are there any committee concerns to go over tonight? All right, I actually do, and this kind of goes back to our first public comment period. Having heard from Mr. Kellett before that, as well as a couple of the other business owners that are along North Main. Yeah, over the past several years, they have been told that they need to put up signs, or that they need to tow, that they need to do this, that they need to do that. The onus of this problem has been placed on these property owners, and it shouldn't be. If I don't want someone trespassing on my property, I should be able to say, I don't want somebody trespassing on my property, and that should be the end of it. We shouldn't have to have business owners cleaning up shell casings, used contraceptives, narcotics, human waste. That's unacceptable. And we're trying to create a city that is inviting for families, for businesses, for live, for work, for play. And I don't think that we should, as a city, ever be accepting of that kind of behavior, especially when it infringes on somebody else the way that has infringed on the business owners in the North Main area. I think that we need to get a handle on this now, and we got to get it stopped.
Also, the people who live behind the club are having an issue.
In addition, one thing that was brought up was the people waving people into the parking lots. I witnessed that personally into that particular lot. So that is something I saw, and I was surprised that they were letting them use their lot. That kind of shocked me. Something that popped in my head. So that just, I did see white flashlight waving people in. And also I've had a situation previously where I was waved into my own neighborhood for parking. So at least 2 times, I've seen it more than that, but those 2 times popped in my head. But that, again, right there. And also, I think about the 3rd time, I believe I saw somebody waving somebody in. I want to say it was the heating company. Ted Cook's, I believe they're doing that as well. Could have been the other, but.
Is the governor's executive order still in effect for 11 o'clock and more alcohol? So what the heck are people doing out in the parking lot at 1 o'clock in the morning, or even midnight?
Well, so can they be at full capacity now?
No, well, I think it can be a full capacity. We have to check, but I think you can. They can't be serving after 11.
Yeah, the alcohol sales, I believe, has to be stopped by 11 o'clock, everything off the tables. So,
And then one other thing is fire code allows so many people in that building. If we're talking the number of cars that we've been told, I have a hard time believing that they are not exceeding their fire code number of people. I don't know what it is in that building, but I can't imagine probably 400 people tops, I would guess. So a couple of things, maybe that's one other point to bring up as well, fire code. We also don't need a situation where fire breaks out, something happens, and all of a sudden you have people, patrons that were in there, all of a sudden they're injured as well. And that's happened, unfortunately, too many times in South Carolina where that has occurred.
thank you, Mr. Craig. Any other committee concerns? All right, well, here on adjournment.
I'll wait to adjourn.
All right, we're done.
Chairman Black, are you okay if I go ahead and take the meeting?
It's fine with me. Go ahead, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Black. All right, let's go ahead and call this Recreation Committee to order. The time is 6:50. The date is Monday, November 2nd. Members in attendance are myself, Mr. Pat Matney, and the chairman, Dale Black, is on via Zoom. Not a lot on the agenda tonight, but first item was call to order, second public comment. Do we have anything else? Anybody who would like to speak publicly? All right, moving on, reading and approval of minutes.
Move for approval?
Have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? I'll second them. All those in favor of,
Got a question, Mr. Reynolds, first.
yes, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Madden, per our standing committee rules now, since I've dialed in by Zoom, can I still vote on anything during the committee section, or is that a no-no?
I'm check one more time. I think you only can participate and you cannot vote, but let me double check.
My understanding was participation.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think that's right.
participation only.
I want to make sure, because I didn't want to be voting on something and it not be, correct. That goes for the other two committees also.
You could say how you would have voted if you were present.
Yeah, I believe that's correct, Mr. Black. I think it's just participating only. Not voting.
Yeah, I know when we did the special ordinance for council meetings that we allowed it at that point. But I don't know where it's allowed during the committee section, not according to our standing committee rules. I think if it stated at one time, and even something from municipal association, if you zoomed in, you could talk, but you could not vote. I might be incorrect.
It doesn't speak to it specifically, Mr. Black, but I think erring on the side of caution may be appropriate and just only participate, but still share your thoughts and opinions.
All right, thank you. Yeah, to be safe, and just like in the other two committees I'm a member of, I will not vote, but I will share in discussion. But that way we have it on the record that maybe we're not violating anything that would be printed incorrectly in one of our local newspapers.
Thank you, Mr. Black, for that clarification on that. Moving on, we've got a motion and a second for the reading and approval of minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes carry unanimous 2-0. Side note that Mr. Black did not vote. Next item on our agenda is reports and communications from city officers. Mr. Bart Humlander is our recreation director. Could you please give a budget review as well as the second item of the Pine Brook Forest Park basketball court?
Yes, sir. Budget's in real good shape. We're having a few expenses with our heating and air units at the sports center, but other than that, the budget's sitting pretty good. Pine Brook Forest, there's trying to redo that basketball court there. We have looked at it, and it's one single goal out there now. And what we're trying to do is get another goal out there. It's not regulation, it's actually bigger than it needs to be as far as regulation. And talk about cutting some of that basketball court off to make it regulation, and also seal coat it just like the one in Springfield Park that we finished up back in the spring. I think that would be a great addition to that neighborhood. It's not much used out there now with that, but I think it would help it out to get some more use to it. As I said, it's one single goal out there now, and we're going to add a double goal and paint it, mark it, just like the one in Springfield. If you've been by Springfield, basically like that. It's a little bit narrow, a little more in Springfield, but basically that's what it'll look like. I think that project for that capital improvement project, $7,500, and we're right on the money with that. And I think Public Works is able to saw cut that asphalt and cut it down where it needs to be.
So the fiscal impact, you estimate is 7,500, about the same as what we,
Right, that's what's budgeted.
that was gold as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that was provided as an update. This wasn't an item on the new business, is there? Mr. Black, did you have any questions for Mr. Comlander?
No, I went with Mr. Madden and Mr. Cumlander last week, and we toured all the facilities, and we looked at the basketball court that he's questioning or talking about, and we had several suggestions that we all threw together that we're going to bring up to committee at some point. We're checking on some cost factors on some of them at this time, then we'll bring them to committee at that time. So we are trying to find more ways to improve our parks and all this, and haven't heard anything but great reviews about all the new playground equipment that we've installed. And also I've had numerous people telling me what a great job we did when we made Bart the recreation director. So just wanted to pass that along to him.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
So I guess I'm a little bit, maybe a little bit of clarification, because the item is listed as basketball court update, but the agenda item specifically seems as if it's more of an action item because where the request is to make the court a regulation court, which would have the cost associated with it. So are we dealing with?
No, thank you, Mr. Madden, members of the committee. I apologize for any confusion from the agenda summary that's in there. Essentially, this is an update. It's an operational matter.
Okay, good.
The decision was made. The court as it exists.
I hear you. I'm good.
Got it.
Operational update. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. If we don't have any other questions for that, we have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Hearing none. Committee concerns. Mr. Chairman, you want to lead off there?
I don't have any at this time, Mr. Reynolds. Like I say, other than just for information, like I say, we did tour all the park facilities, and we're throwing ideas among ourselves, Mr. Madden, as to how we can bring them to committee and council as some more improvements for our facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Black. I did understand you were touring the departments. There were pictures of you going down the slides, and there were other people complaining that you not do that anymore.
Well, no, they didn't hold up too well with me.
Any other committee concerns?
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Hearing none. What do I hear on adjournment?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Nothing wrong with going inside.
I call this meeting to order of Public Works Committee. It is 7:50. Oh, no, 6:59. I changed my watch. We have Ms. King and Mr. Reynolds here, as well as Brandon and Mr. Fleeman. Call this meeting to order. First item is public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, we'll go to the next item. Reading approval of minutes.
Motion to approve as submitted.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those wish to approve the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. Forward. It's approved. Now, next item is the report on from the officers or from the let's see, 1 second. Public Works Director. Mr. Fleeman, you have a budgetary review.
Yeah, we're right on track. We've gone ahead and issued purchase orders for the seal and tack machine for the streets department, as well as the hot box trailer. Seal Master here locally won the bid for the sealing machine, and we purchased the Falcon hot box asphalt trailer off of a cooperative purchasing program. So both of them are being manufactured. We should have them. These should be a rather quick turnaround. As far as other budgets, we're right on par with where we need to be.
Questions, Mr. Flippers?
You're gonna be awful busy, leaves and debris and stuff now.
Yes, we actually, yeah, a lot of the utilities just dropped the trees and left them in place, so we're scrambling to get everything up.
Thank you for participating Friday in our first retreat. The information you gave was very helpful and clear, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Madden, update on the IMS road inventory.
Yes, the IMS road inventory has been completed. We have a conference call with them tomorrow afternoon for them to just walk us through their 5-year plan. We would like to have a special call Public Works Committee meeting next week so that council can review, the committee can review and take action on that plan so it can be on the council meeting agenda for this month. And we can go ahead and kind of move forward.
We have a meeting Monday for we have a special council meeting Monday. Next week, I'm thinking as well, or a meeting.
Meeting on the 9th.
Oh, we did.
Yes. So maybe it might be a good time for you to do both of these.
Okay.
That one's at 6, so we don't know how long that's gonna last. So I don't know if that would be. I can't be here before 6.
Understood.
If it's okay with the committee, I'll work with Cindy and send out a note to all council.
Okay.
Committee members for next week to see which way goes best.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
We also have one on the 13th. Would that be too late? Could we do it on the 13th on Friday or the meeting on the 16th? Whichever one was gonna be. Don't we have the 2 o'clock for the auditors? Just another suggestion.
Yeah,
to
that
throw
might
out
be a
there.
good one, actually.
Okay.
What can go wrong on Friday the 13th?
Okay.
This year.
I had a wedding rehearsal that night.
Okay.
Not mine.
Actually, the day we went into quarantine. Friday,
Was it
early March, yep.
Yep,
I did not
it
know
was.
that. Not sure if I needed to know that. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Madden? Unfinished business, there is no unfinished business. Okay, new business. A motion to enter an executive session for the consideration of a contractual matter involving Metro Connects as allowed by state statute section 30-4-70 A2 pages 32 through 14.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
I
Aye. Ayes have it. Let's move to executive session. Next up, report out.
Mr. Chair, I'll reporting out of executive session at whatever time it may be. Thank you, 7:47. No decisions were made, no votes were taken.
All right, thank you. The next thing is possible action. There is none. Public comment. Public comment. Online. All right, any committee concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a concern, just a statement of appreciation to the Public Works Department their cleanup efforts for the storm that came through. So I know you're gonna have piles of leaves, piles of debris. We appreciate it as quickly as you can. And I think having some discussions with neighbors of mine, getting out the message of the struggles in public works has been helpful, because one neighbor in particular said, well, I understand we're not allowed to use inmates anymore. And so I lay out, here's why. This is why it's troublesome for our work employees and how hard they've been working to keep up the same amount of work. So it is appreciated.
Any other concerns? All right, that, have a motion to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Second.
We adjourn.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
All right.
All right, this is the Building Codes Committee. I'm gonna call it to order at 7:55 p.m. on November the 2nd. Is there any public comments? All right, hearing none. What do I hear on the reading and approval of
Move for approval.
minutes? Do I hear a second? Oh, sorry. You can't.
Yeah, you're the second.
I'm the second. Okay, second. Any discussion, any changes? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's two. Dale cannot vote because he is,
Zoomed in.
Zoomed in. I'm sorry, and I also forgot to mention that Taft, Matney, and myself, David Deerhog, and the city administrator, Brandon Madden, are in attendance. Okay, so next item is our unfinished business, and it's an ordinance to establish the standards for the placement of small wireless facilities in covered areas in the city of Mauldin and for other purposes. Mr. Deerhog.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an old item. I don't know how else to put it besides that. We, as you may recall, the state came out, the General Assembly passed the Small Wireless Facilities Deployment Act just over a month ago, at the time when we were trying to finalize our own city ordinance. So we went back and revised our ordinance for consistency with the state law. This has been reviewed by our city attorney. It has been reviewed by AT&T and Verizon Wireless. Tonight we have for you a finalized ordinance that we would like to present for your consideration. And then in turn, you might consider passing this along to city council.
Madam Chair, move we forward this to council with recommendation for approval.
All right, that was a motion, and I will second. So we will forward this on to full council for consideration. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the next item that we have is appointments to boards and commissions.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So we have been talking about some candidates for openings on our Building and Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Planning Commission. And in the course of that conversation, there has been some discussion about actually formalizing some procedures by which the council might appoint members to the board and the commission. And so that was brought to discussion for some input at the city council this past month, and city council, I think, expressed interest more or less in seeing this committee go back and work on something like this. So what I've done is I've put together a draft policy just as a conversation starter, if you will, The draft policy includes a purpose statement, what boards and commissions are affected, what the qualifications could be for the planning commission, what the qualifications could be for the building and zoning board of appeals, what the appointment procedure might look like and follow, potential interview questions, and that's it. So presenting this to you tonight, basically to kind of get the conversation ball rolling. If you've got a chance to look through the draft policy, I'm glad to receive your feedback, or if there's some things here you like, some things you don't like, some things you want to see change, let me know.
Okay. One thing that I think that we probably should change is the residency of the city. I think that it needs to be longer than 12 months. Just because I feel like you really can't get to know your city and the ins and outs of what's going on in the city and with planning or the zoning board of appeals in just 12 months.
Have you spoken at all with city attorney on a residency requirement? Obviously, they need to be resident of the city in order to serve, but in terms of a residency length.
We have not specifically talked about that. I did share with the city attorney that we are looking at this, and honestly, my conversations with him was just trying to determine whether this needs to be done as an ordinance or a resolution, to which he said it could be done as a resolution. But that's probably most of the conversation we've had about this. We haven't. I don't know how closely he's looked through this for those types of requirements. We haven't really discussed that.
Yeah, that's sure, that might be something that we would want to specifically ask legal counsel.
Okay. But I can ask him that for sure.
The interview portion, yeah, I know that for other governmental entities, applicants for these positions are generally done openly in a committee setting. I don't know that we need to do anything behind closed doors for that. I mean, I would have no problem with us conducting an interview as an agenda item during a committee meeting. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fun. The three on committee could certainly ask the questions. That the department, the business and development services department, would that down correct first?
No, the way this procedure is set up is the city clerk would receive the applications, and the city clerk would schedule, after she received the application, she would schedule those interviews.
Okay.
Now, if there are some requirements, like, I guess it depends if there's things you want us to vet. Certainly, we would cater the application to make sure that it asks the right questions or for the right information that can confirm that they meet the various qualifications. If there are things though that you would like us to vet additionally, we can certainly incorporate that into the process.
So the planning commission application, you would have separate applications for each.
Yes.
So they would be abundantly clear what they were applying for rather than just filling in the blank.
Correct. So if they were interested in more than one, they would have to fill out multiple applications. This is kind of the answer to that.
Well, that brings up another question. Should we allow multiple applications to be filled out? And again, that goes back to the, I want one, if I don't get it, then I'll be happy to do the other, like it's a consolation prize.
Right.
And if you're declaring, you're declaring. When we run for city council, we declare for the seat that we're seeking. So I'm not going to file for seat one and C3.
And you'll get whichever one you're elected.
Right.
to. Right.
I mean, these are very important boards for the city. And I think that we need to treat them with the dignity that they deserve.
Mr. Black, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, I'm looking over, if you look on, there's some different changes on for Board of Appeals. If you go through the Planning Commission qualifications, Board of Appeals, there's 2 or 3 bullet points or sections in there that do differ from one position to another. And it's like what Taff was talking about, multiple applications. So some of that qualifications would prohibit you on multiple applications, it looks like. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If you look at like 4.4 on the Building and Zone Board of Appeals, quasi judicial responsibilities of the board, it doesn't mention anything of that I saw in the Planning Commission. So.
Yep, and that's by design, just because, like Mr. Mackey mentioned, they are 2 entirely different bodies, and they do entirely different things.
Because the Board of Appeals is again, quasi judicial and has the final say on the matter, where the Planning Commission, depending on what the recommendation is to council, we may or may not do it.
We can overrule the Planning Commission, but not the Board of Appeals.
Right.
Right, it just sort of breaks down what the different qualifications that are needed for each one of these positions. Okay, so you're going to ask legal counsel about the residency. And then we just.
Let me know if you want me to make any other adjustments, like whether we want to put in there anything about how you can only have one active application at a time, type of thing.
I think that needs to be included.
Yeah, I don't think you should be able to apply for both positions at the same time. Now, if you apply for one and you do not get it, then if you're qualified, I don't think that would prohibit you from the next time the other one came open to applying for it. So.
And then the interview.
Oh, and then change the interview so that it's just in a regular open session.
Correct. Madam Chair, you want to get those changes made and then we revisit it after they're incorporated and after we get legal counsel's advice?
I think that would be probably the better thing. And then, that also gives us a little time if we think of any other qualifications or interview questions that, I suppose we're not stuck to a list of interview questions, one for interviewing candidates. Sometimes one question leads to another.
Well, then if it's okay with you, I'll just go ahead and move that we hold this in committee while we're getting those changes incorporated and opinion from legal counsel.
All right, so I will second that motion. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we do have one application that we can talk about that fits the qualification for the planning commission. Mr. Darrell.
Yeah, you had asked about Mr. Brian Schofield. I did bring his application with me again in case you wanted to look at it. And I think the question was that you had asked was, do we want to consider moving or considering appointing Mr. Schofield to the planning commission, because there is a current opening on the planning commission. And if there was interest in going ahead and having the planning commission filled as they're getting ready to work on some big planning stuff, just I guess, is there an interest in going ahead and filling that empty seat? while we have someone who looks fairly qualified with a building background or a development background, or just hold off.
I think the only thing is that his application is for zoning.
So he did indicate, because when the planning commission opened up, I went back to all the applicants and asked if they had interest in that as well. And he did indicate an interest in the planning commission, even though it wasn't marked on his application at the time he submitted it, that there wasn't an opening at that point for what that's worth.
So my question is, if we were to want to forward this to full council for consideration, would he fill out another one that specifically states planning commission?
We can certainly ask them to revise the application.
Just so that we don't give them something that shows building and zoning.
Yeah, I think if we're maintaining consistency, then this is a candidate that staff feels comfortable with, that there needs to be a new application for the position for which he is applying. That is accurate.
Okay, so you want to forward this to full council for consideration with the changed application?
I will support the chair's decision.
Okay. I think that we should go ahead just because, like you said, there are some things coming up on the planning commission, and it would be helpful to have a full planning commission at that time.
I'll get back in touch with them.
So we need to vote on that since we're not.
Well, that's,
So just kind of brought it up.
Part of appointments to boards.
it is, it's, I think it would 5 and 5 do.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think it fits what I was going to do as well as board.
Okay, with that, we were holding that in committee,
Well, the policy.
the policy,
No, she's right.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then do I hear a motion to move?
Well, that would be added as a different agenda item.
Okay.
So I think we probably just need to let it fly, let it hang out since it was not an agenda item and address it next month for the application.
Okay.
That would just be cleaner.
Well, so when is this stuff coming up in the planning commission?
Well, they actually their last meeting started kind of divvying up some assignments, focused on the comprehensive plan. They are taking the next 60 days to kind of work through some areas they've individually volunteered to focus in on. So to your point, if this waits till December, we should be in fine shape anyways.
Okay. All right, and then you'll be in contact with him in that time. Okay. All right, so next is, next item is new business. And this is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of real property owned by Van and Mauldin and located at 237 Greensboro Drive on 100% petition method and to establish a zoning classification of Origin residential or said property.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And you just, as you said, this is an annexation and zoning assignment for property that's 0.87 acres. It's located off of Greenbrier Drive. And the purpose for this annexation is that there's a larger tract of land there that's already in the city of Mauldin, known as Don Turner's property. And they are working on a subdivision development proposal for that site. And as part of that, they have come across an opportunity to purchase just a little additional piece of land, which will help in their overall design of the subdivision they're working on for that. I do have the applicant here with me tonight who's going to be undertaking that development. But what they're looking at there is about a 20-acre site, and they plan to develop a single-family neighborhood there will probably consist of about 78 homes. The homes will be in the neighborhood of about the mid $200,000 range and up. And like I said, this annexation is just a 0.87 acre tract there that they will add to the property they already have, which will help them to be able to design their subdivision well better.
Okay, about how many? So there's 78 homes, and what are the lot sizes?
40. About like about
Okay.
or whispering that.
The other question I have, there seems to be a lot of trees back there in that portion.
Yeah, that'll all be left. We're in compliance with the tree ordinance and open space requirements, but a lot of that is will tie in through that area for our sewer reasons. We require the neighbor on the, can't remember the name of that little road.
Yeah, it's called 10-year for it.
So we were able to get an easement across his back. So a lot of those trees, one reason because they have to pay the other reason they don't buffer us.
Okay.
That's the sign that's right.
I've heard of a tree hugger.
I like to leave as many of them as I can.
We have a lot, I don't know, we probably have an acre next to us that's pretty that belongs to a doctor. And you know, we have a lot of wildlife, and it seems like every time a new subdivision comes in, they take all the trees out and build. So that was my concern.
But thankfully, and better for us, most of that place is open field. So that makes it a lot.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any questions? Mr. Black, do you have any questions?
Now, this is tying into the already, like David said, the already piece of property that was annexed, I think, either last year or earlier this year, which is over there. So it has not been developed yet, but this would tie into that same parcel that was already annexed into the city some time ago. So,
2 years ago.
okay, was it 2 years? Well,
Yeah.
time flies.
I know it.
All right, so, the recommendation is for this matter of full council.
Madam Chair, move that we forward full council with recommendation of approval and ordinance to provide for the annexation of a portion of real property owned by Jan and Ronald Rigsby and located at 237 Greenbrier Drive by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 residential for said property.
All right, I will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so this will be forwarded to full council for consideration in 2 weeks. Thank you. Okay, so item B, 6B is discussion of building exterior color regulation. I kind of brought this to David because, you know, we're hoping to develop our study center and just wanting to have some consistency with colors and sort of have like a color palette, if you will, that developers could choose from with accenting colors and things like that. And maybe also that we have like an outer, what do I call an overlay district that would also tie in and limit, because we don't know what other companies may want, what colors they may want to choose that aren't kind of in keeping with what else is around here. And I just think that now we need to be proactive rather than reactive, because, once it's done, there's nothing you can do. So, in keeping with all of the other provisions that we've put in for city center and development, I just think that it's something that needs to be discussed. I went to Sherwin-Williams and picked up some information. And they gave me this, I think these are, but I don't think these are what we want to get. Did you look at these?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, it has different buildings and different colors and, there's things like that. And I also picked up a color block, if you will. But, so that's kind of one thing that I would like for council to look at and talk about. Thoughts.
I get nervous when we start going down this road, because it becomes very subjective in terms of what this particular council's tastes might be. What we have established with the Central Redevelopment District and City Center is strictly design standards to maintain some consistency. And I think that, and the mayor has talked about this on a number of occasions, that's, we look at transitioning as we continue going out from city center. I know that there has been some discussion about one particular building here in town, and some folks not necessarily being happy with that color, but again, it's a matter of individual taste, and that brings me back to how we are in our own neighborhood. Our neighborhood, Madam Chair, does not have a homeowners association or covenants that we are around with. And I think that we're fortunate compared to some other neighborhoods that have very strict covenant restrictions that determine what they can and can't do on their own property. We have some exciting news that hopefully we will be able to share with folks before too much longer about economic development. And there are really things that we didn't envision before. I think that there were some new concepts that were brought to us, and may not necessarily fit in this mold. So I start getting nervous when we get into telling people what they can do with their property. It just gives me a bit of unease.
Well, so at the property you're speaking of, I love the color. I think there's a little too much of it, but we're talking about, this is our city center. And I just feel like and not that a developer would want some outlandish color, but we want it to be cohesive and kind of, if we had different developers come in and you've got a property here and they want turquoise, and you have one over here who wants purple, and pretty soon you're just kind of all over the place. I'm not saying there are.
Or we have people coming in the mall and saying, y'all, we got to go see this. And then they come in and this with the money.
Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of colors in here. It's not saying you can have black or white or gray. That's it. There are a lot of different colors in here. If you take a look at the way that the use of some of them, I mean, they're using, accent colors that are more earth tone, that kind of not. I mean, some of them are earthy. But there's a lot of different colors in here. It's just,
when you think about crayons, all the time they're adding a new crayon color, right? And David, you can tell him about the research that you've done in Bryan, Texas, what they have, which I wouldn't go down that path of these are all the colors you cannot use. I would say here's a broad spectrum of the colors that are acceptable in our city center. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what when you brought this up, so I started to look at just to see what are some things that different communities, because sure enough, a lot of communities don't regulate color. And there are some communities who set up design review boards or architectural review boards, and they do look at and review colors. I wouldn't recommend that road though, because that's very subjective, and it depends on just who you happen to get onto that board. What I have seen found other communities do is they focus in on a historic district, and they will require colors, and they will actually identify them in the ordinance of the typical colors found in that historic district, so they can maintain that look. And then the other example I found was, as you just mentioned, in Bryan, Texas, where they have what they've done is essentially developed a list of what they call limited colors. And they say these colors here, and it's a really long list, these colors here are limited to no more than 15% of the building. So they basically identified a set of colors that they say are more or less accent colors. Any other color outside of this is fine, but if it's one of these colors, it can only be applied as an accent color up to 15% of the building. So those are the primary models I've found, is either no regulation, a design review board, certain colors in a historic district, and then this one unique example of here's the colors that are only allowed as trim color. Those are kind of the ones I've found so far in my research.
part of the problem I think that we have is we don't really have anything. And it can be very broad. It's kind of worrying. And I don't know why. I'm not saying that anyone's going to come in and want anything outlandish, but you never know. And then how can you say no? How can you say, well, we would prefer you use this or more muted color of that or whatever, but I'm passionate about our city center and our city. And I really feel like we need something to protect our city center.
So what colors would you propose not allowing?
I'm sorry?
What colors would you propose not allowing?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, there are a multitude of colors that if you go into a paint store, and it's just overwhelming. And some of them just would not fit. I don't really have a specific color.
What's Mr. Black doing? I want to know.
What do you think, Mr. Black?
I'm sitting there listening, like David said, he must have been talking about one of them, the Rainbow District in one of our coastal towns, which, you got to use a certain color, you got to use certain windows and building material and all that. I'm sitting here thinking, what if you're recruiting a particular business to come to your city and part of their trademark is a color or colors that does not fit into the colors that you would say would be allowable? So are they going to turn away because they can't do the structure, the colors that's part of their trademark selling point of their business? I mean, I think that would probably go against you in recruitment if you went in there and said, you got to paint these colors. This is the list you got, but Then you got, if they don't like those, and you say, well, we could go through an exception and go through a board, and maybe the Board of Appeals or something could alter that for you. I don't know where we need to go down this color thing at this time, because you're restricting it, and then you're gonna say, well, you build a subdivision, you can say a man can't paint his house pink if he wants to, so.
I'm not saying anything about subdivision,
Well, I know that, but
about the city center.
well, I didn't hear the city. I heard the city center mentioned, but one of them you're talking about is one particular building that's already in existence that was painted in that particular color of the siding. But I'm just thinking you're gonna restrict potential businesses if they already have a color that they use as their logo or their selling point, and everybody rides down the road and say, hey, there's XYZ hamburger place, or, grocery store or whatever, and they've already got their colors that they use nationwide. So I think it's kind of a touchy situation. Might be totally wrong, but I just looking at you put more restriction on some people that you're trying to recruit.
Well, but a business like McDonald's with their yellow, I mean, they can still use their logo. It's just that the buildings within the city center should, just my opinion, and maybe there are developers out there who, they have, a color palette that is tasteful, and, I mean, we hope. But if they don't, I mean, how can you say, well, can you think about these colors? I mean, how could we do that?
Does any of the surrounding cities have any kind of color ordinance, David, that you know of? Because if they do not have one, and then we put one in place, then that's going to tell people, well, you can't put the color you want where you want it. So we're going to go to another locality and place this, where it be a Woodruff Road or be another bordering town. I mean, I just think we need a lot more information on before I could make a decision, yay or nay on it.
Consider if they're having to use a lot more brick and stone, that most of the paint color would be more accent colors. If that makes sense.
So you saying Taft couldn't paint his building orange and purple?
With a great big tiger ball on it.
Now, see, the color of your shirt is very nice.
Well, you like it because it's Texas orange. You don't like Clemson orange.
But anyway, I don't know, would you just look at this and just see what?
I would gladly look at it, absolutely.
Yeah, I
Just
would look at it.
because, and consider, I mean, this is just discussion. And that if you see that some of these buildings and then some use the different accents, which I personally wouldn't care for, but it doesn't look bad when they use it with other colors and things like that, but I'm just concerned.
I'm with it.
Okay, sorry.
And I'm making that commitment to you.
And the question came up from Mr. Black too, about what some of the other places around us do. I know a few certainly that don't do anything with color, but I don't know for all of them, so I can look into that too and see what some of our neighboring.
Well, another thing, this might be something we need to get the input from the planning commission on also, so.
Eventually, if we do go down the road of an ordinance, we would. In fact, it would need to go through them.
Like I said, I just want to be ahead of the game and not come up and we can't say no to something at first.
What would the design standards as they currently exist in the Central Redevelopment District allow or not allow in terms of new construction? What all is not allowed?
Are you talking about like the building materials or the color or what?
I'm talking about, are there things that are currently restricted? What is currently restricted in the CRD? I'm trying to remember, it's been so long since we did that.
So the CRD has restrictions in terms of the facade design, meaning, you know, it has requirements and standards in place so that it's not just a blank wall.
Okay.
There's requirements and standards as far as the amount of windows they have to have. There's requirements about the types of modulating that they need to do on the building. There's requirements about some of the architectural treatments they need to apply to kind of design the building going vertically. There's the requirements about how the roof is designed so that it's not one just straight flat roof, but has variations. It also has a requirement that the building needs to be built at least 2 stories. Those are the requirements I can think off the top of my head.
I'm just trying to think of how that would play with different colors. So it was really just more of a question for myself.
But wasn't there something about brick and stone also?
So
That it had to be a certain percentage?
I know there are restrictions on the types of materials that you can use. Cannot remember off the top of my head what that list includes, but it will be a short list. I know that. I can pull it up here really quick. All right. So in the CRD, we do allow brick and stone, and we allow the cementous artificial wood and glass. And then we only allow split face concrete block and stucco as an accent material. Has to be less than 25% of the facade. So those are the materials that we would allow in CRD. Primarily brick, stone, or the cementous artificial wood, or fiberboard.
All right. All right,
Mr.
well,
Madden, would you hand me the slide? Do you mind if I take that with me?
no, that's fine.
You want to-
Well, so when I went to Sherwin-Williams and I asked for the color block or color wheel or whatever you want to call it, he took a while to come out. I didn't know he was going to bring me that one. So I was just kind of looking at these. These are more residential kind of things. Not that they have horrible colors in it because they don't. But if you want to look at these as well.
Sure.
Okay, so we can move along to public comments.
Well, the dentist office down here is a bright ocean blue with rock. And it's a beautiful building. It really stands out, it's beautiful, but it's an unusual color. And then the field burger up here on Butler Lane, it's a collage of different colors.
Which
And they're food rocks, by the way.
And then we have
Yeah.
shot side by side.
David and I have seen each other in the parking lot.
Well, and I've been there a few times.
Your shake machine is working now.
Oh, that's
Yay.
wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Oh, yeah, they're really good.
I've got a chicken sandwich as well.
I like the best thing.
I don't know, 11.
Closed on Sundays.
As are a lot of restaurants in town. Which is a bad thing. Okay, any committee concerns? Hearing none, we'll hear on adjournment.
So move.
Okay, so we are adjourned at 8:40.
Okay, gonna call to order the fifth committee meeting of the night for public safety. It is 8:41 p.m. Present, we have myself, we have all of committee, myself, Mr. Kraling, Mr. Black, on in the Zoom or something, video conference. We have Chief Turner, Chief McCollum, our city administrator, Mr. Madden, and
I'm here. I'm
here.
here.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you all doing?
Good.
Good.
Okay, the next on the agenda is public comment. See no public comment at this time. You'll have an opportunity at the end as well. Reading and approval of the minutes from September 14th.
Move that,
Go ahead.
I move that that they're adopted as is. I'm sorry for calling someone else.
Okay, got a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second?
You'll have to do it.
Oh, you can't do it there? Okay,
No.
I'll second it.
Remotely, I can't vote on anything.
Okay, you just, okay. Can't think of my words. And any discussion? Chief McCollum, I think you had.
I'd like to make a correction on page 3 of 352, where it states there are 2 fire marshals. There's only 1 fire marshal. There are 2 deputy fire marshals.
Okay, Ms. Miller, if you could make that correction or clarify that, please. And on page 3C. Towards the middle of the page, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted with the 1 correction requested by Mr. Chief McCollum, say aye. Aye. None opposed, motion carries. Move on to the reports from, as Mr. Madden would say, as I historically do, we'll go with Judge Martin first.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. In reference to my budget, I just wanted to inform you all that I'm trending about 9% under where we are supposed to be right now. So I expect that trend to continue throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you. Everything going good in court for you?
Everything is going well. Yes, ma'am. We are still doing limited court, but now we're just down to court once a week on Wednesdays.
Well,
Yes,
I could
ma'am.
imagine your face when you saw those new chairs.
Don't they? I think they look very nice.
They do. They do.
And we have the chairs for the jury stand or the jury box, if you will, and the tables. They're expected to come in sometime this week.
Great, great.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you
excited.
all.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Chief McCollum.
Our budget is doing, I said, we're at 7% under budget currently.
Okay.
As everything's going good, like I said, if you look at at budget report, where we'll on our repair and maintenance, that's due to the station 1 with the HVAC system. We had some issues over there. So, but other than that, like we're still at 7% under budget.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and throw you in case I don't forget at the end of the meeting. Thanks for the employee appreciation over at the fire department on Friday, and that went well. And Chief Turner made the chili, so everybody was bragging on that. So that was a success. Sorry we missed you, but glad that you were able to take a few days off. All right, Chief Turner.
As far as with the budget, fiscal budget tracking very good at the time. We're currently about 6% under. Earlier the next month and a half, no really big expenditures. We do anticipate our fleet vehicles arriving probably sometime between the end of December and the first 4 weeks maybe of February.
Good.
So that will see that come out. It's all been pretty that really been
All right. Any questions for our department heads or Mr. Mack? or Mr. Madden, I didn't give you a chance to go. Do you have anything to add? All right, here, no further questions. We'll move on. Unfinished business, we have none. Under new business, we have, do I have a motion for us to enter into executive session?
I move that, we go to executive session to consider contractual matter as allowed by state statute, section 30-4-70, A2, pages 4, 350.
Okay, we have a motion to enter into executive session per code section 30-470A2. I will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of entering into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, none opposed. We are in executive session.
Mr. Black?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, it's 9:05. Public Safety Committee's reporting back in from executive session. Mr. Carlin, can you report out for us, please?
No votes were taken or actions.
Okay, there's no action coming out, so we're back to public comment. Public? All right. No public comment, so that leads us to committee concerns. Mr. Black, committee concerns?
We got the driveway in progress over at Miller Road. I noticed the tree's gone.
Yes, that's what they took the tree down and all that. Like I said, that's what the process. I know they got some quotes. Mr. Curtis got some quotes and stuff. Ain't that correct, man?
Okay, yeah, I saw the tree was down and ground up the other day. All I had.
All right, Mr. Carlin?
I have none.
Okay, I would just like to, I think I mentioned this on Friday, but once again, thanks to the fire chief and to Officer Brian for their participation in reading for our kind of pilot program for the children's story time. So we appreciate that. All right.
And the hot dogs.
Yeah, I thanked them for that earlier. And the chili.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dale. All right, what do we have on adjournment?
I moved that we.
Yes, up to 2 y'all.
I'll second it. We stand adjourned.
Get a little giddy.
Am I ready?
Ready.
Just go ahead and call this finance and policy committee to order. The time is 9:09. Second. This is the sixth and final meeting of our city business meetings this evening. Members present are myself, Chairman Reynolds, Ms. King, and Ms. Diane Cooper. We also have our finance director, Holly Abercrombie, Mr. Mark Putnam, our HR director, as well as our city administrator, Mr. Brandon Matthews. First order is call to order. Second is public comment. We have any comment from the only public present?
I'm here, but I don't speak unless I've got something to say.
Well, that's why we listen attentively when you do speak. Hearing no public comment, the first item we have on our agenda is the reading and approval of minutes. These are from the Finance Committee, October 5th, dated 2020.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Do I have a
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Additions, changes? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item, we have reports and communication from city officer, Mr. Brandon. You're up first.
Yes, the administration budget is off mark. Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Ms. Abercrombie.
Yeah, everything, work pretty much in line where it should be about this time. So I don't know if there's any specific questions you just want me.
Any specific questions from this act from the ordinance? Okay. The fun stuff. Mr. Putnam, health insurance update.
Okay, just to give you a very high level, or update, if you will look at page, I think it's 8, you'll see where our quotes came in. Basically, just to break it down for you, Mount and Anchor, who we use now, came in flat. And we went out to Blue Cross Blue Shield. They came in at about 44.7% increase over what we have now. If we went with them, Cigna was just a tad above that. They were closer to 45%. So we'll really be looking to stay exactly where we are with no increases in rates, and we will do that for health, dental, and vision.
Or if you want to have a lot of happy employees.
That's the first in a long
Has
time.
it ever happened?
Well, as far as staying the same, we held the line yesterday, last year. So this is 2 years that we stayed the same. Would have hoped that we came in with a little slighter downward turn, but it just didn't work out this year. But we'll have hopefully 2 years in a row if we do as well next year. We're anticipating coming in close to maybe 200,000 to the good of what we're putting in versus what's going out. And so that's where we'll be with that. We're going to take this and go in front of the employee engagement committee just to make sure that they don't see anything. Last year, we went back and offered Cigna. If you wanted to leave Mount, you could go to Cigna. There was no increase. I don't think we charged them, but we had to get 25 employees. We didn't even get 25 last year. I think we got 17. If you look at the comparison, just for a single employee, they would have to, they're now paying nothing for their health insurance. They'd have to pay about $263, $69 a month. And we're not going to be able to get 25, what I'm saying, not and have to offload that cost to them. So we will be with Mount pretty much across the board. And we will continue with Proactive MD. That's figured in with the rates that we have. And that for us was just really our shining star this year with all that we've gone through and the changes that the employees had to go through. Proactive was that anchor that just kind of helped the employees walk through it. And they were also there to treat a lot of, we've probably taken $200,000+ out of our claims because people could go to Proactive if they had a sore throat or something like that and get treated there for free because we're paying the fee the city is, and then they could also get their medicine there. And we've actually got, I think, about 5 or 6 employees that go there every month just to get certain medicine. And because they can get the medicines there free, they don't even have to go to the drugstore. So that's just a high level of where we are. Any questions?
Well, no, I think more of a comment. I think that you know, we obviously have a fiduciary responsibility to our citizens, and I hope that they can see the buy-in that you have to get from your employees to help us do a good job at the city's finance. So I'm going to pass it along to the employees. We appreciate it. Ultimately, hopefully the citizens appreciate all of it. The whole line on health insurance is shocking to me because that's just not happening. It's one of those things that no matter what, it goes up. You know, and for you guys to have done that for a couple of years is an accomplishment. A testament to your hard work as well as staff. So certainly we appreciate your hard work in it.
So do the employees not pay for the employee only plan that they have to pay for spouse, children?
Yes, you just have to pay for employee spouse, employee children. And for me, it's I wanted to try, what we've tried to do is try to lower that for the employee and the children and the employee and the spouse. I mean, employee and family that they pay, because if you think about it right now, if you're, if you have family, it's $344.91 a pay period. So, you know, that's not inexpensive.
But at the same time, out of less than 200 full-time employees, about how many have all family coverage?
I don't know the breakdown, but I do know that there's 35 county employee and spouse, employee and children, employee and family. There's like 35 total out of 165. So 130
Are free.
are fully, they don't pay a dime. So the vast majority of your employees here don't pay a dime. That's dental, vision, all
Okay, so for the employee, if they have, you know, the family plan, then how much does the city pay, the $599.29? And they pay the difference?
Yeah, we pay a little over $1,000. We probably pay about $1,100 some odd dollars. Okay, yeah, yeah. The total cost is $1,778, and we're probably a little over $1,100.
I will add, when we present a recommendation, we'll probably be recommending to reinvest cost savings. So at worst, for next year, it will remain flat. And at best, there'll be a reduction for the penny. Yeah, that's one of the biggest complaints that we get.
Yeah, because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And we're looking at, with Southern Scripts, that between now and the end of the year, well, really, we'll get probably $5,000 between now and the end of the year. And then maybe by June of next year, we'll probably have $25,000 that we brought back into the city from the discounts that we get from the way that we do our pharmacy now. So that's even something that we could use to try to offset some of the costs that you have to pay for it. And we're looking at how we can structure that.
That might be a good thing. To help them out some more, because that helps morale. I mean, if you think whatever it is that they make, and then they're having to pay out $350 a paycheck per injury, I mean, that 700, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, we're just right now, we're really glad that we've held the line, and that's been for 2 years. And I know this is my 4th time doing it. I've had 2 that were decent increases, and then these 2 have been held the line. So
Have they settled into this map?
yeah,
Because I know that in the beginning, and changing insurance is not fun, and I've been there and I hated it, and because some of my doctors dropped off and things like that, and it was not a fun time. So I know that there were several who were not happy with it. So have they all settled into it now?
pretty much, because, and one thing that's really helped is proactive also, because proactive has a healthcare advocate that will actually do the work for you. One thing that we're really working with now is making sure when they send somebody there that all our bases are covered. We have
Where
had,
is that?
it's out of Florida. It's a company that's out of Florida that basically finds us, finds our employees specialists, so that we know that, number one, they're getting the best care they can. They're getting folks that do whatever they need done on a constant basis, so they're good at it, and they do.
This is a reference rate, so, you know, traditionally, let's say you would Cigna or Blue Cross Blue Shield, you know, they kind of do all the work for you on the front end. But now, the employee and HR and our third party ECM solution, they're doing the work for us. So historically, I would just take the card and I was going to the doctor. Now, I would need to call that, and they will refer me to a doctor.
They try to find you at least 3 specialists, sometimes it's 2. depending on what you're having done, and then you can choose which one you'd like to go to. Along with that and us paying upfront for some surgeries, it's really been a cost savings for us. In some cases, we'll pay up to 2 days ahead for somebody. And to give you one last example of how they understanding it, I just talked to an employee the other day at the lunch we had, and he said, "I'm getting ready to have surgery, and I've done this. He's done all that." I said, "Yeah, you sound good." I came straight back up, made an email or sent an email to Map and to Anchor and said, "Is this employee done what they've said? Are we okay?" And I got back thumbs up. They're good to go. We're going to do a 2 day before pay. And so we'll be requested to move funds. And so, yeah, it took a while. January was a rough month for me, but we're doing a lot better with it.
So this is, we're self-insured.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that gives us a lot of power both to take a look at things now so that we can see what we need to be preaching to our employees. We see this and put this like. It also gives us a lot of knowledge to look out the marketplace. How can we better do some things? Southern Scripts came to us. I mean, we've all seen the designer drugs on TV, and we've got a number of employees that are taking some of those drugs to a tune of $48,000 a year.
Wow.
Just and a handful of employees. So we're working with another part of Southern Scripts that will come in and look and see if the employee makes under a certain amount of money, they can actually go out and get coupons for them that will cover the entire cost. So not only will we be helping the employee because they won't have to pay the copay, but the city will not have to pay for that. And when we look at it, I would say that 80% of all our employees will make under that threshold. And the threshold, I think, as we were talking, is about $70,000. So we're going to be able to save employees and ourselves a lot of money.
Thank you. And I will add that I think I've mentioned this before, but we got to this place, I guess, 2+ years ago. Committee asked staff and especially Mark to think outside the box, and because our insurance rates were just continuing to go up. And for those folks who are in that those 35 employees who have more insurance than just on themselves, it was becoming burdensome, a burden for those folks. Even though historically we know that health insurance is going up for everyone it was 2, that's still not comforting when it's happening to you. So that's what Mark did. He looked outside the box and came back to committee, and we looked at 2 or 3 different options. And this just, after forming a committee of employees, I think this is kind of like a focus group of employees from across the city came in and talked to the MAP folks and had everything explained to them, and they bought into it. Then the decision was made to change over to this structure. And also looking at other cities, Greer's self-funded, Clemson self-funded. So there was a lot of thought process that went into getting us to where we are today. So,
and we are thinking long range of maybe pulling with Greer, with Clemson, maybe with Simpsonville as a consortium, so that we can each go from 160 some odd employees to maybe 500 employees, and be able to do a little bit more, have a little bit more leverage with that. But if you take a look at it, you just see the increases, Blue Cross versus Cigna. I mean, it's, when you talk to insurance companies, the insurance companies blame the hospitals blame the insurance company. But it's a little bit of a law. And even Cigna, if we were to go within Cigna, it's no longer, Spartanburg Regional will not even work with them. There's a lot of doctors in Greenville now that will not work with them because of contractual disputes and stuff like that. So, they were kind of iffy, but when they came back at that price, it wasn't iffy anymore.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark? Mr. Putnam? All right, next item is unfinished business, which we have none. New business is up next, we have the budget calendar review, pages 10 and 11 in your packet. So just as we finish up one budget, we start another one. Have an annual budget, that's how it works. And speaking of audit, we do have the audit workshop. Spit out the dates.
Next Friday, 13th.
Yep, Friday the 13th at 2:00. Not required, but would be glad after the attend. And it will give y'all a chance to ask your auditors any questions on the audit or any other questions you may have.
You have to ask the auditor, is she doing a good job? No, it is always nice to continue to help.
And the budget calendar, it's pretty much the same. I'm just putting it forth for y'all to know, and start working to schedule dates for budget workshops and stuff, so you kind of know when to put those on the calendars and stuff. Or if we need to move any, that you go ahead and you've got something coming up today. That's basically what this is, for information.
Have you really given thought to a biannual budget? Any thoughts, pros and cons?
I have. There are pros and cons. Would you like me to work that up?
No, not this time. Maybe later.
Okay.
Just thoughts. Okay, any questions regarding budget calendar?
Thank you, Holly, for missing my birthday, but getting the 15th instead.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I know.
This is
I'm
for
just giving you a hard time.
change anything.
We always have the 5th, my birthday's the 17th, so and so is Dale's probably. Yeah. So
We're gonna have first reading the date.
and let me check my anniversary, because we usually have that one in there too.
We're gonna have.
But that's,
Sorry, Mary.
The day before mine is first reading.
the color coded is.
Yes.
That's something new.
Beforehand, so I kind of.
She spruced it up.
That's great.
So noted.
Okay.
Yeah, so seriously, Carol, that's what it's put out there for. Y'all need to change dates and stuff, we would love to be able to, not have any conflicts.
Certainly.
Put it on the calendar now.
That's right.
Okay.
We need to move it now.
I didn't see anything that is conflicting with my schedule, but I don't look that far out, so it'll plug in as long as I get an invite from this month. Next item is an amendment to standing committee rules. Okay, so I asked Mr. Madden to put this on just for discussion. We don't have to take any action tonight, but give it some food for thought. If you read in the packet, the reasoning behind it was just looking at is the upstairs conference room desk for committee meetings, and we're bringing online the AV updates and doing COVID stuff we have been doing. Would we be more accessible in the downstairs chamber? Mayor Marin asked me also to mention that if we are going to look at something like this, to give the committee chair some flexibility also. So if you wanted to have a more informal meeting, you could have it upstairs in the conference room. But just wanted to get some feedback from you guys. Again, we don't have to change anything tonight, but feedback, thoughts, discussion.
Well, Mr. Chair,
From my short time on council, this room has been full maybe once when we had something on the agenda that the public really wanted to attend. Other than that, it's pretty sparse crowd. Same with our council meeting. If there's something on the agenda that lots of people want to be here, they're going to fill the room, and if not, there won't be a whole lot of people. So, it doesn't matter to me either way. But I'm just saying that, smaller setting would be easier.
I'm sorry.
The public can see.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So are we closing?
Oh, yeah.
Versus way back in the council chamber?
Well, you haven't said it in your chair yet.
True, but I haven't.
Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, this is something that I had talked to Mr. Madden about probably back in April after COVID hit and we were going remote, and then, well, initially we were still meeting downstairs before we went remote. And at that time it was brought to my attention at first, standing committee rules, that this is the structure that we're set up to meet upstairs. And I said, well, so thank you for putting this on the agenda, I guess is what I'm getting at, because I said, you know, just even when we get out of COVID, I would like for us to entertain meeting downstairs simply because, well, there's a lot of reasons, but I like having the flexibility as the mayor suggested, but meeting downstairs, number one, it's safer. Folks, there's no way for Chief Turner to, well, there is, but it's more difficult for him to monitor our safety upstairs versus downstairs. I mean, now we're taking temperatures as people come in. I understand there was tonight an issue to where someone came in and did not come through security, did not have the temperature taken. I don't know how that happened. It wasn't our current public, but just those small things. We have this wall of windows, glass right here. You can't control what happens out there. Yeah, we live in a nice, cozy, safe town, city, but times are, you just never know. So, and then in addition to all of that, add our new audio visual system that we'll have for the Zoom meetings. And that's been a huge problem. And now we're correcting that issue. So no, is it warm and fuzzy and cozy? No, but if the chair, for whatever reason, needed to meet up here, then you would have that option if council decided to go in that direction. But I guess for me, just it's council chambers. It's just more of a safety type issue and crowd control for our police chief if we were to have something on the agenda that calls a larger crowd to come in. And then we would have the adequate seating for that.
Consistency as well.
Right. Right. One other thing. So I think sometimes when we're a committee of 3, but if there are more of us sitting up at the council table, in the beginning it kind of got a little confusing to me. It's like, because there's several of us sitting here. You know, I mean, but I guess as long as only the committee members are sitting at the council table, or whatever you want to call it, just for the public too, seeing who is on the committees, if the public is in the audience. The other thing is, when we have executive session,
Sure.
then we have to get up and come all the way up. So
Yeah, I
there's
think
just something else to think about.
from my perspective, that's probably really fun having to come up and down.
But like I said, I mean, it doesn't matter either way to me. But
Yes, Ms.
excuse
King.
me, but again, that could be a positive, separating for executive session for safety issues there again. You don't leave the public up here in this room while we're all in the mayor's office or next door. So we're separated.
Okay. Well, so I think from our perspective, then we should give some instruction on drafting a different policy, what changes we would like, and then have it at the next meeting. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, would you say on, I think it's page 15, just amend that whole portion with wording to change it to council chambers downstairs, or upon something, I'm not good at this wording, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but also to
That's awesome.
include
That is bad.
that if, yeah, that if, under special circumstances, if the chair requested to meet upstairs, that would also be an
Right.
option. So if like if it was a special call, we don't have one, there's no sense in having to meet downstairs if they don't want to.
Perfect.
And I would think even our workshops could continue to be here, but that's not included in that, I don't guess.
Any other, anything like that?
Okay. Thank you for putting this on the agenda, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Bring on some light. Okay, Ms. King, if that is all, Mr. Madden, if you can have that on, just on the agenda for us to review. Anything else on that? Then we will move on to public comment. Our one public member who didn't break through barriers to get here. Hearing none, committee concerns. Hearing none. Next item is adjournment.
Removed.
Have a motion, second, discussion.
Aye.
Aye. This finance and policy committee is adjourned at 9:36.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You'll have a good night.
Thank you, Mark.
Are you concerned with how similar?
See you later.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good morning.
Wow.